Welcome back, everybody, to the show. Thanks for being here, as always. So, if you're someone that has ever gone through some serious hardships and made it out on the other side, then you're going to want to listen to today's podcast. And I know that that applies to all of you because we've all been through shitty times in our lives, and sometimes we learn from them, sometimes we don't. And we are going to talk about the importance of growing from those hard times and getting through to the other side. My guest today is a renowned speaker, author, coach, father. He is known to be an up-and-coming thought leader that will inspire you to not only do more but be more. His book, Extraordinary: The Distance Between Good and Great, will inspire anyone to learn the tools to make a more positive impact on their lives. Tony Robbins quotes, his book, Extraordinary, will give you the psychology and skills needed to bridge the gap between good and outstanding to take your life to the next level. Welcome, Mr. Cornell Thomas.
Thank you. What a great introduction. Like, out of that introduction, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, who is
this guy that she's talking about?
I want to meet this cat. He sounds great. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy to have you on. I love having people like you come on, and I like mixing it up between my science, nutrition, weight loss stuff to people like you who have this amazing energy about how to better our lives and just, become better people in general. And I know that you, back in, I think it was 2003, you had some serious hardship come down on you where your life basically took a complete turn. Yeah. And I know many of my listeners are going to be able to relate to those big life changes that really feel like at the moment is the worst thing that could possibly happen, and how to come out of that. So can you tell us a little bit about what happened at that time for you?
Yeah, I would say 1978 set me up for 2003.
Okay.
Right? So my adversity growing up as a child is what helped me combat what happened in 2003. So like my father passed when I was 3 years old. And so my father passed, my mom was, forced to raise 5 kids on her own. So the adversity for me started there. And I tell people all the time that if you're going through anything adverse, you have to remember that you've been there before.
Yes.
Not saying that it's not going to suck any less, but just having knowing that you've been there before and you've gone through storms before is just like letting you know that, okay, I can get through this one as well. Even though it's a different storm, it might be a different category storm, but I can get through this one as well. So in 2003, I discovered basketball at a very late age. I was 16 years old. And in the States, basketball, kids are born and it's pretty much their mom, breastfeeding, and then a basketball is handed to them, right? So it's I picked it up when I was 16 years old. So I was very behind the 8 ball. And what I mean by that is I sucked. I was uncoordinated. I was like a baby deer. I was 5'6" when I was a freshman. I was 6'2" that next year.
Oh,
so
wow.
I got all this height and none of the coordination. So I was just I was Bambi when Bambi first came out.
You're just a baby deer.
Just a baby
That's
deer.
A good one. Just you.
Baby deer.
Yeah.
So I discovered basketball. I fell in love with it when I was 16 years old. I didn't go out. I didn't party. All I did was train. And I went through a lot of adversity. More adversity with basketball is just people telling me how bad I was and that I sucked and I would never play anywhere. And after high school, obviously no schools recruited me because I was still god awful. And I worked 2 jobs, went to a junior college. Freshman year, nothing really. Sophomore year, everything takes off. First team all conference, first team all region. It's 5-year span. And so everybody sees where you land, right? So when you had 1 viewer for your show, people weren't paying attention, but now they're like, oh, wow, Karen's show's pretty cool. It's oh, I wonder how she got there. She got there because she's been busting her ass, right? So I go to North Dakota to play basketball, come back home. I'm working out with all NBA guys that play in Europe, get a contract to play in Europe and Portugal at their top division. A week before I was supposed to go, I'm just shooting around with some friends, and I go to the basket, and I hear a pop. And so I fall on the ground. My buddies come running over. They go to help me up. I can't put anywhere in my right foot. I get myself to the hospital somehow. And my mom gets there. And the doctor says, okay, Cornell, we're going to grab the back of your calf muscle if you feel excruciating pain. You ruptured your Achilles tendon. We have to do surgery on Thursday. Now I'm supposed to leave that next Sunday.
Oh, wow.
And so the whole purpose of me playing professional basketball was so my mom never had to work again.
Mm-hmm.
She worked 3 jobs since I can remember. So I was like, I just don't want her to be tired anymore. So I want to play professional basketball, give her the money. I'll play the game for free. I love the game. And that's the plan. And so that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, up until surgery, I can't remember to this day. And Thursday morning, they wheeled me in for surgery. Thursday afternoon, they wheeled me out. I had a hard cast on from the middle of my thigh to the end of my foot. And then by Thursday night, my contract was voided. So people always say, man, how that day must have been so rough that day. I was like, no, actually, the roughest day was the next day. Because the next day, I'm sitting in my room, and my mom came in the morning, kissed me on my forehead, and then I watched her walk to one of those 3 jobs. I told her she'd never work again.
Oh, gosh.
That was the roughest day. So
yeah.
That, like, so when people say, man, I'm going through this, I'm going through that, I'm like, I understand what you're going through. Like, and I still go through adversity. I'm not immune to it. But I said, sitting there in those 4 walls, looking at those 4 walls, and watching the woman who I love more than anything on this planet drive off to one of those jobs I told her she'd never have to work again. That was the hardest day of my life to that date. And I remember getting immediately pissed off, because this is how we deal with change, right? We have like denial, anger, and we go through the 5 steps. And I'm pissed off. And then I started thinking about growing up with this woman and how we couldn't pay the light bill sometimes, and the lights would be cut off. And she would just walk in and just start lighting candles, and like giving out flashlights. Or we don't have any hot water, and she'd mix the cold water, boil it, mix it with cold water in the bathtub. We take baths. So she was so solution-based. I'm like, bro, this is a problem for sure. Acknowledge it. But there's a solution. In 8-9 months, you do what you're supposed to do. You're going to be able to recover from it. Now, will you be who you were before you got injured? Who knows? But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So I called my best friend up. I told him to pick me up and take me to the gym 2 days later. And I shot from a chair for 6 months. Then I shot from a crutch. And then I was able to finally start to work myself back.
And okay, so during the time, I just have to ask this, during the time that you were deciding, like in high school, that, okay, you know what, no, I'm going to pursue basketball and I'm going to make this happen so that I can play professionally and do this for my mom. And looking back, were you ignoring the little voice inside of you that said, this isn't your path?
So that's a great question. That's a beautiful question. And here's the thing. No, because I heard it, right? I tell people all the time, you can't let doubt stop your do. And even though I had that voice that was still talking to me, like, bro, we suck. Like, that voice was like, dude, we're not playing varsity on a 4-19 team. Like, we're not getting time. I didn't let it stop my action, because a lot of times when you hear that voice causes you to stop. You hear it and it says, you know what, Karen, I don't think you're good enough to do this. And if you listen to that voice long enough, you're going to say, you know what, I'm not good enough to do this. You're going to just echo it. So there's 2 sides to us, right? The voice that tells me I can do something is just so freaking loud that the other voice it's just background noise. It's white noise, right? So I heard that voice, and I even when I started to do what I'm doing now, like as I started to progress through my life and do different things, that voice doesn't go anywhere. The voice is just freaking waiting for adversity. That voice is like, man, I can't wait till some shit comes up. I'm back, baby. Like, that voice is going to jump in like, I'm back. You just have to make sure that voice is a whisper and not yelling.
Yeah, I think we need to realize that no matter who you are, that voice is always there. The voice of fear, it's there for a reason, which is to protect us. Like, inside, we're just meant to survive. Like, our brain doesn't, if it picks up a threat of any sort, even emotional threat, it's going to send out those warning signals like, oh, you might not want to do this. And don't, I don't know. So-and-so's going to be better than you are. And so many of us, I would say 90% of the time, we listen to the fear, the voice of fear. And we don't move past it. So at what point, like, what do you feel was that like changing moment for you where it was like, okay, I need to move past this. Like, did you tell me you were really depressed for a while?
Yeah. No, I wish I could lie to you, but I'm gonna keep it real with you. And I think it's just because how I was, brought up, like not coming from a lot. It's just I looked at that injury a little bit different than someone else would. I looked at the injury like, bro, I used to come home and like we used to not have something to eat sometimes. Like my mom would like scrap and put something together just so we can eat. So I was like, it took me a couple of days, and then I was in the gym. And when I was in the gym, it was just physically, it's not helping my basketball game, but mentally, it took me away for a couple of hours of the reality of the situation. Physical therapy was the same thing. I had the best nurses. I had these 5 little nurses, and I'd be on this ball when I could finally stand on this wobble ball, and they would try to pass me a basketball. And they'd say, Cornell, passes the ball, but not too quick. And I would just like whipping the ball to them, and they would be sweating by the time we finished it. But it just took my mind off it, right? Just if you sit in it, if you sit in the crap and you stay there, that's where that depression and that, man, I can't do anything, I'm worthless, that's where it comes in. You can't be stagnant in it. You have to move. That's so important. And when people tell you they don't go through stuff or nothing bothers them, they're full of crap.
Yeah, they are.
They're not human. I hate seeing self-help things where it's like, it's okay, pick yourself up. It's like, no, I just lost like 3 family members and I got into a car accident and lost my leg. You're fine. No, I'm not fine. Like, I need to deal with this, right? And the way you unpack that is maybe different than someone else. So I never judge someone, like their process, right? Like sometimes you need more time. I'm a psycho. Like, it's different for me. Like, I'm a psychopath. But like sometimes you need more time. So I think if we have empathy towards people and say the way Karen might process this is different than me, and me just understanding that when you go to funerals, sometimes you see someone and they're like, fine. You're like, they just lost the person they love the most, and because that might be the way they're handling it, right? You don't know how they are behind closed doors, right? And then you see people and they're just a wreck. Like months later, years later, they're just, a wreck. It's like, it's all how you handle it. So I just handle things a little bit different. Like my mom's the same way. My mom is like sweetest woman in the world, but when things happen, she's like, okay, now what?
Right. Yeah. And so at what point did you start to go, okay, let's now shift my focus. I'm not going to be a basketball player anymore I'm going to be this, speaker, author, mindset coach, at what point did that shift for you?
Well, I'm a knucklehead, so I didn't see the signs.
Okay.
Right? Like God was like, hey, dummy, dummy, you're not supposed to be playing basketball.
Well, that's what I was thinking when you were talking about them. When I said like, oh, were you going against something? I was thinking too, like, what were you going against as far as God or the other, whatever you want to believe in, is trying to tell you, actually, you're not supposed to be playing basketball. You're supposed to be over here as this person. And maybe that's why the accident happened, right?
For sure. Yeah. And when you're in it, like, you can't recognize that. So I was so tunnel vision focused. And I mean, Karen, this is my whole identity. Was a basketball player. There was nothing else. I was connected to basketball. Basketball was connected to me. So I just saw myself as Cornell, the basketball player. And then I got an opportunity to coach basketball. So I'm coaching basketball, and reluctantly, I didn't want to. I was 26, and the coach at my old junior college just left. And the athletic director came up to me, who was my old coach, and said, we have nobody where you coach. And I said no like 1,000 times. And eventually I ended up coaching this team, and I have this group of young men that are from inner city areas, and their parents are just dropping them off and saying, can you make him into a man? And then just taking off. I'm 26. I don't know what it is to be a man. I'm still figuring it out now, right? And it's like, okay. But I realized at that point, like, I was put here to help people. I didn't know what capacity. The speaking thing was so far off in the stratosphere. I was just like, I'm going to be this like super dope coach, and I'm going to beat all the teams and win the national tournament. And, they're going to lift me up and Gatorade shower and all this stuff. And that was still my mindset. So I coached junior college for 6 years. And then I go to this place called Blair Academy that has these big time high school basketball players. And I'm like an assistant coach. I had 3 NBA guys, and we're about to have my firstborn. So we're about to have Bryce. And I'm feeling like this different pull where it's like, it's not just basketball. There's more than basketball. And I talked to my friends who are coaching at these big schools, and they'd say, yeah, we get to the gym around 7:30 a.m. We come home like 11 p.m. And I'm thinking to myself, you grew up without a father. You and your wife have a child coming into this earth. This is what you want to pursue and not be in his life. But I still didn't know, like, well, what is the freaking answer? Like, what is it? And one day I'm on Facebook, and for whatever reason, it was just, my timeline was still just the most negative stuff I've ever seen. It wasn't even during a debate. It was just like negative, right? And I'm like, this is people's coffee. Like, people wake up and they're like, oh, so-and-so hates her boyfriend, right? I was just like negative. I'm like, I got to do something different. So I had a book the book was called Book of Positive Quotes. A friend gave it to me, and I was just taking quotes out and I was putting it on my Facebook. I said, I'm gonna do this every day. And people started to like it. I was like, okay, great. And then one day I wake up, it's super early in the morning. I can't find the book. And I'm like freaking out. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? And I wrote my own quote. And people still liked it. So like, screw the book. I'm gonna just write my own quote. So I just start writing my own quote. And like months go by, and my friend goes, dude, where do you get your quotes from? And I'm like, actually, I make it myself. And he goes, you should write a blog. I said, what the hell is a blog? And he goes, so he started like a WordPress setup for me. I wrote my first blog in like this place called Panera Bread, this place where you eat in here. And it was called Risk. It was terrible. It was like a paragraph long.
It was terrible.
God awful. And every Saturday I would write a blog, and I would see people from like Vietnam and from like these different places would be looking at my blog. I'm like, my words have this power. I was like, why don't I just go out and write a book? And my buddy's like, how are you going to write a book? I was like, I'm going to ask Google. Google usually knows.
Yep.
So I asked Google. Google's like, this is how you write a book. I read my first book called The Power of Positivity. And I'm like, okay, I want to speak. How are you going to speak? I don't know. I'm just going to say yes to everyone. I'm going to put it out there.
Ask Google.
Yeah, ask Google. Google, how do I speak? And I just started going out, and I started speaking. Like I spoke, my first speaking gig was in front of 12 people at a dance studio, and they were eating. It's like the worst case scenario, right? I'm up there. It's like 14 people. They're just like, and I'm just like, all right, be so impactful they stop eating. That was the only goal. Like, just be so impactful they stop eating. And eventually they stopped chewing. And I'm like, great, let's do this. And so I'm like, okay, so this story, there's something here. And then I just started going on speaking. Next thing you know, I'm in like England and going to these different places, and no speaker agent, no speaker bureau representing me, just me. And like when people say, I want to get into speaking, but I don't know the right person, I was like, I didn't know anybody. I knew no one. You know what you do if you want to be a speaker? Believe in your message, practice, and don't suck. Mm-hmm. That's what you do. And be authentic. And be authentic in terms of just be you. Me and you were talking before. It's like about just being ourselves. Like, just be yourself, right? And if you're yourself and what you say you believe, then people are going to gravitate towards that. If you're trying to be somebody different and you're fake, no one's going to gravitate. Like, people are going to sense bullshit. Like, you can smell it out. It's like, okay, this person definitely is not doing that. You go on Instagram, you see 7 gazillion six-figure earners sitting next to rented Lamborghinis saying, I can teach you how to do this, and they don't have the money in the account, right?
Yeah.
So you can smell it right away, but then you see people that are real, and you're like, yo, I like that person. They stick out like a sore thumb. That's why people like us, we're going to win, because we're who we are. What you see is what you get. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the refreshing thing about the era we're in right now. If you have content and it's real, like you're creative and you have content and people, like, you're a real person, you're not like a plastic person, you're going to win eventually. You just got to keep going. You got to keep, working towards it.
Which I think so many people assume that you have to have this natural talent for something, when, like, I love the fact that you're so open with saying, I've had to really work. I've came from nothing. Every time I've done something, I sucked at it. You sucked at basketball. You sucked at blogging. You were really good at the positive quotes right away.
No, that's about it.
But you still had the fear, and people think that they need to have no fear in order to take that next step in their life when it comes to changing careers, starting a new hobby, whatever it is. that you're going to have that you're waiting for the fear to go away, and it's just not going to go away, and you probably are going to suck at it for a while, and it's going to take time.
Sure.
Right? In this day and age, we want this fast, quick fix gratification, and it's just not realistic, is it?
Yeah. I love that. Like, man, first off, like, man, your viewers are blessed, right? Because you drop, I mean, I can only imagine the nuggets that you hit them with on a daily basis. That's the first thing.
Yes.
It's awesome. Second, and I'm not just saying this, I'm saying it because I'm like, when something hits me, I just have to say it. I'm sorry. But like, you're talking, I'm like, wow, she said some really good stuff. But it's so true, right? Like, I've been speaking now professionally, like, since I got the first dollar, about 7 years, right? There are peaks and valleys. There are months where I'll speak 5 times. There are months where I speak once. And I've spoken Dubai, England, all over the place. But I control my destiny. So if I'm going to reach out to 1,000 places this week and say, I would love to speak at your event, I've got to put my ego aside and say, it doesn't matter that you did some TED Talk or Tony Robbins. None of that crap matters. Because there's a lot of people that don't know who the hell you are, Jack.
Yeah.
So if you want to speak in Asia, if you want to speak in Australia, if you want to speak in these places, guess what? You have to do it. Unless you want to give someone else $5,000 a month to not do it or not represent you the way you can represent yourself, right? So everything is work. I knew that I had the gift of gab. Like, I knew I can speak to people. I didn't know what I was going to speak about. So I had to construct, like, how do I frame my story? How do I say it where it's impactful? And it's not about me. It's about the people that are listening to me. Because in that story, if you hear me speak, which you will, because I know we're going to be best friends, like,
of course you are.
Duh. So when you hear me speak, like, it's a series of stories. And in those stories are all the lessons. And people are like, man, I love listening to you because I can just follow the story, or I can follow where you're going. I'm not like, hey, when I never made a mistake, this is what happened. Then the Lamborghini came, and it flies because I'm rich.
I'm going to teach you exactly how to do this. In exactly 12 months, you're going to get a 7-figure business.
Just give me 7 figures so I can teach you, and then I'll have a 7 figures. Like, that's like, it's like, come on. It's like, you can't teach people how to be you. When I coach people one-on-one and they want to be speakers, I'm like, this is in your voice. This is not in my voice. I don't want you to sound anything like me because you're not going to be able to do it. You can't replicate me, just like I can't replicate you, right? So make it in your voice. It's something so refreshing when someone comes along and you're like, that dude or that girl's different. It's so cool to see that. It's like, even like when you see like a comedian or someone that like is new and you're like, oh, that's fresh. Like, I like that. You know, like, I look at, like, when we just got on just doing the eye test, I look at you, I'm like, she's different. You know, like, yeah, she's from Canada. She's got the cool hair. Like, she's like, whatever, right? She doesn't look like everybody else that's out there. It's like, that's how I want to be when I walk on stage. It's like, I want people to look at me and say, oh, that dude's different. He's not like this. He's not super preachy or super whatever.
Or not trying to be somebody like the million other speakers out there that are all trying to be like each other, right?
Yeah. Crazy.
It's not cool.
Crazy.
And I'm just going to say, too, that, like, in my own journey, it took me a long time, and I feel like I still work on it all the time, which is, don't get sucked into what everybody else is doing, right? And you think, oh, to be the next best whatever. And this can apply to anything in your life. When you're trying to make these changes and you're looking at so-and-so, trying to compare yourself to them and thinking, I need to be like that person in order to get there. Well, that's not true. You need to find exactly how you need to do it with your own voice. And it's going to take work. And I know, and I don't know if I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but I got really stuck in the law of attraction stuff. Like, I got really into it for years, where I kept thinking I need to think about things to manifest them. And I would imagine my life in a different means. And what does it feel like to have, a huge growing business? And I got so caught up in the manifestation part of it that I stopped doing. I stopped taking action, and I let the fear, the voice of fear, hold me back. And and I would sit around and manifest thinking that that's how it was all going to come to me. And you see a lot of that, like when you're talking about these people on Instagram and Facebook saying with their Lamborghini, I'm going to help you make all this money if you do X, Y, Z. And I got suckered into a lot of that stuff. Like, oh yeah, tell me how you did. And then I was like, no, I can't sit around thinking about having the Lamborghini and it's going to show up on my doorstep. I actually have to go out and start doing and taking action in order for these things to happen. So what's your opinion on that, on the whole like manifestation? I know you talk a lot about positivity and maybe like what's the difference there between the law of attraction and just being a positive person?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's honest, right? So it's beautiful and it's honest. And when people read The Secret, the thing is they didn't realize that manifestation without action is nothing.
Yes.
It's nothing.
I just did not know. It took me a long time.
It is not just you. There are millions.
Millions. I know.
Millions.
Being duped.
Yeah, they were like, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. No money. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. Like when I read The Secret, right? This is right when I first started writing the quotes and I was about to start getting into speaking. I looked at it and I said, okay, well, let's be honest. This has already been written before. Okay, so James Allen in 1902 wrote a book called As a Man Thinketh. It's the same thing. As he thinks, he attracts. What he thinks he attracts. So it's already been done. Anything that's ever been said already, I don't care who it's by, it's already been said. Right? It's just your different view of it. Now, when I read The Secret, what I took from the manifestation is my mom has always said everything happens for a reason. My mom has always kind of loosely talked about the law of attraction without saying the law of attraction. The Secret for me framed that into, like, gave it a definition. Okay, what your mom has been saying to you a little bit and what you've been feeling, that's called the law of attraction. So when I talk to my friend about a song or a movie and I go home and it's playing or I see it, I manifested that. Now, it's a scary thing if you're not open to it, right? It's a scary realm to mess with. Because when you start seeing things in your life that you were just talking about and you start seeing how powerful that is, it's very easy to get duped into saying, okay, well, that's all I need to do. Right? It's very easy to do that. It's not like, well, Karen, how did you fall? No, it happens all the time, right? What you have to do when it comes to the manifestation law of attraction, you can't say, oh my God, I just had a bad thought. Oh my God, what's going to happen? My house is going to blow up. You can't say that because it's not going to happen. Now, if every single day you said, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm terrible, so after a while, you're going to just believe it. It's the same thing. I want to speak on 100 stages this year. 100. I spoke at 47 last year. I'm speaking 100 this year. Well, now 90 because I already spoke a 10. Right? How do I do that? Yeah, I can say that to myself. I can believe it. I can visualize myself on these stages. But I also have to message thousands of people.
Yes, you do. Damn it.
I have to message thousands of people because all I'm doing is I talked to a friend today and he was like, how's things going, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm a seed planter. I plant seeds every single day, and I write emails that don't get returned. And the thing I love about that, the thing I love about people that don't return my emails is when you see me on a real global scale, you're going to check your inbox and really hate it. You're going to hate it. You're going to hate it so much. And this is why we are connected. It's like, you're not returning that email to speak at your freaking dinky ass summit, right? And then you're going to see like, oh, wait a second. I could have had that dude at my event.
Yes.
Like I could have had him speak at my university and I didn't. I could have had Karen speak at this and I didn't. Are you kidding me? I wrote a letter to Oprah in 2013. I wrote 4 letters, handwritten. I sent it to all of her offices. And I said, you are not ever going to open this yourself. I said, you have too many people that do stuff for you. I said, at some point in time, if it, God permits, and I'm sitting down in front of you, I'm going to remind you that I never heard back from you. This is what I wrote in the letter. This is like literally my book wasn't even out yet. And I put Cornell Thomas and just sent it. Because if I go on a Super Soul Sunday or whatever it is, the first thing I'm gonna say is, hey, Just so you know. Because I'm going to talk to her like, I'm going to keep it real.
Sister?
Yeah, but sister, what's up? I'm like, you're just a human to me. Like, cool. You do cool stuff, but like me and Karen have way more fun. I'm going to tell her, I'm going to say, look, I wrote you 4 letters in 2013. I sent it to your Chicago office, your New York office, your Los Angeles office, and wherever the other one is. I knew you weren't going to ever get it. But I knew that I'd be here one day if I decide to be here one day. Right? So I always look at that like you just keep planting seeds, keep continuing, keep grinding, keep doing what you're doing. And then when it takes off, you don't even have to come from a place like, I told you I'd do it. They're going to see it. Like, they're going to see Karen on Ellen and say, is that Karen that, oh, wow.
That I said no to?
Yeah, that was dumb. I tell people all the time, stop trying to prove people wrong. It comes from a negative place. Prove yourself right. And if your goals are bigger than anybody else's expectations, you're not going to give a crap what people say. Like if I told you my goals, you'd be like, Cornell, you're nuts. Like you wouldn't be, but like a normal human would be like, you're out of your mind, right? We're too busy comparing our lives. And I know this, you probably have this with your clients a lot, comparing our lives with other people's highlight reels on social media. Ugh. And that is the issue because it's a highlight reel. If everybody posted the real stuff on social media, they'd be like, got diarrhea today. It's a mess. Like, that's what you get social media with me. My son just peed on me, killing the game.
Actually, my kids aren't this cute, and I can't stand them and want to punch them out right now. Like,
almost found my husband.
Yeah.
Couldn't find the knife.
Couldn't find the knife. Sorry.
Hashtag love.
Yeah, hashtag love.
That's why I don't subscribe to these like Valentine's Day and all this other stuff. Like all the holiday and craps. Like Valentine's Day, you know, like the couple that you know is about to get divorced, they have like rose petals to the bed, like loving my love bug.
Oh gosh.
It's like, stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it. Everybody stop comparing yourselves to everybody else.
Stop it.
And listen to what he's saying and what I'm saying when you are trying to make change in your life, you are going to maybe have to change courses 1,000,000 times over and have that door shut in your face 1,000,000 times over before one will finally open. And I've had the same journey where I've had people ask me straight up when 2 years ago when I asked to be on their podcast, what are your numbers? How many subscribers do you have? How many followers do you have? And I'm like, oh, whoa, not very many. What does it matter? And I promised myself when I got to where I am right now, I will not ask people those questions. Yeah. If I want someone on my show, it's because I want to talk to that person. I know that they have value to give, not because they have 10,000 followers and can bring me more. Forget it.
But how crazy is that?
It's so crazy.
You have a podcast, and especially when you have like guests on your podcast, it's all about, it's supposed to be about the conversation. Yeah. Does it matter if I'm pretty sure if Gandhi was alive, he'd be an interesting person to talk to. I know he wouldn't have Instagram. He wouldn't have Facebook. He wouldn't have any of that stuff. Because he doesn't have followers, do I not interview Gandhi? Exactly. Like, do I say, oh, he doesn't have any followers? Like, there's so many great, amazing people that they're not on social media. And that's fine. Like I'm working on a TV show right now called On Purpose, where I travel the world and I interview people that are not celebrities that are doing great things for humanity.
That are not celebrities.
That are not celebrities. Oh, that's the big thing,
caveat. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they are celebrities.
Yeah, they are celebrities.
What they're doing.
Rocking it. Yep. Yes. And I want to make what they do viral. Like instead of the burping cat, right? Like I want to make what these amazing people are doing. Like there's a woman, her name is Jennifer Shum-DePaul. She has this company called Project Kind in New Jersey. 7 days a week, she goes to Newark, which is the inner city, and brings food, sandwiches. And it stopped being about the food and the sandwiches. It started being more about the conversation. She starts doing Facebook Lives and getting donations, like almost like live time, to get people off the streets, right? Doing this with no money whatsoever, pretty much. Wow. And just doing it because she cares. Now, she'll put a video out, and like myself and like some of her friends and whatever, like 20 people will like it. Then you have someone twerking on a sailboat and 5 million people will like it, right? And it's like, where is our, like,
where are we at here, people? Where's our priorities? I think
we have it mixed
up.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, cool. Cardi B, like, she says funny stuff, but there's a woman in Newark in like below 25-degree weather, like out there with no jacket helping these people, you know? So I just look at things, I look at this world, this matrix that we live in, and I say to myself, there are people like Karen, there are people like Elle who introduced us, there's people like Jennifer. And the cool thing about this is we're finding each other.
Yeah.
And that's why I always think there's hope for the world, because how would we connect? You know, like, think about it. Like, it's just so weird. And even with Elle's, like, how would I connect with her? She's in LA, I'm in, New Jersey. And it's like, we just find each other. And that's the cool thing, right? And I think real attracts real. And that's why we're meeting up and we're talking, and now we're helping each other and each other grow and do what we have to do. So, man, there's a
movement coming though, Cornell. I feel it, I see it, where yes, it's like this huge diverse like fork in the road that's happening right now, where so many people are being taken down the social media mania craze, where they're addicted to their phones. Like, little sidetrack here, like I was outside in on a lake where there's very little cell reception, playing hockey on the lake on the weekend around a bonfire. Okay. And I noticed that a man is sitting beside me amongst all these people roasting hot dogs on the fire, and he's on Facebook. And at first I think, is he working? And then I scooch closer and I spy, and I realize, no, he is scrolling Facebook right now. And not just for 2 minutes to check something. He sits there, and I watch him for an hour with his head down scrolling Facebook amongst all of these people. And I finally said to him, do you actually have cell service right now? And he's like, yeah, apparently, because I've been on here for a while. It seems fine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I would be mortified if I was doing that, right? So it's crazy. Yeah. So there's this huge fork in the road of people that are getting more and more obsessed with social media, more and more obsessed about accumulating things in their life, thinking that's going to bring them happiness. And then there's this growing movement of people like you and I, and probably so many of my listeners, that we want something more. We're looking for more depth in our life. We're looking for those feelings of joy and purpose and positivity, and there's more to life. And I remember hearing once on a documentary about happiness, and they said the number one thing that can bring you happiness, which ideally both these roads are looking for. We're trying to find things that make us happy. And on one, we're looking for these dopamine hits on social media and by all these artificial things that we're wanting to buy. And then this other road, but they said that happiness is number one to bring you happiness is giving. And I just think like what you're talking about, with your TV show, those are the people you're going out trying to find, or who are the people that are giving something to other people. And if people could get onto that and realize that's actually one of the best ways to bring more joy into your life is by giving back somehow. Yeah. Right?
That's beautiful. I had a friend of mine messaged me last week, and he asked me about the show. And I get in these moods sometimes where I'm just like, F the man, like I'm doing this, and I was just in that mood, right? And so I had this guy that filmed the trailer, this guy Colin, him and his wife, this company, Karma Pants, they're phenomenal. And I messaged him, and I'm not going to use all the language, but I was like fired up. I said, bro, we're doing this. I'm like, screw Netflix and Hulu and all these other places. I said, we're going to do it. We're going to shoot it ourselves. I'm going to raise the money for it somehow. I said, we're going to put it on YouTube for free. And I was like, and we're going to do the seasons there. I was like, screw all of them. I was like, they don't want this kind of programming. They don't want that. You think freaking ABC wants a show about people giving and helping? You think Netflix wants? No, they want like the next Marvel or the next Avengers, or they want a drama show or reality show, whatever it is, right? So I'm like, we're going to do this a different route. I was like, screw all of them. We don't need any of them. And he was like, yeah, man. Like, I know he was probably like with his kids. I got them all like fired up. He's like, yeah, man. All right. He's like, yeah, screw him. I was like, exactly. I'm like, hang up the phone. I was like, I got to calm down. I was like, I'm too fired up. But I look at it, I was like, we have the resources where your cell phone can, you can run a business from your cell phone. We have YouTube. If you have content, unlimited content, you can make a YouTube channel. You can do Instagram videos. You can do lives. And you can put out whatever you want to put out. Now, if you want to put out that good, if you want to put out like this show and the things that you're doing, man, there's so many people that you can reach. If you want to put out the opposite, there's so many more people you can reach right now. You don't put out the drama, the negativity, like there's plenty of, there's a big audience for it. But like you said, that audience, I think deep down inside, everybody's trying to find happiness. And the reason I call this world The Matrix is because one, it's one of my favorite movies. But two, I think that it's not really about unplugging people or waking people up. It's just showing them that there's a different way, right? There's, if you only think there's one option, and it's this negative course of social media and this, you got to do like drama stuff or really dangerous stuff to get viral or whatever. If you show them a different way, like, hey man, giving is really cool. Like giving is so dope. Like if you show them that, they're going to want to do it. And I think that the generation, like a couple of generations behind us, they're really purpose driven. These kids, like, we just don't give them the benefit of the doubt. I didn't have cell phones when I was growing up. So like I didn't have anything to look at or stare at. So of course I was outside playing. I didn't have a freaking video game that looked like a movie. I had like a VHS player and a Nintendo, where you could barely see the characters. But this generation is like, they're like, okay, I want to help. Like I want to give. Like how do I? Like that's how that's what they're asking.
Yeah.
So why don't we pour into them? When I go into universities and high schools, I get so fired up when I speak. Like it gets so, because the energy, like it's like they want more of it. Right. So I think we can shift people if we just keep throwing out what we're throwing out.
100%. I think you're wrong. You've got a little bit of a limiting belief there. I think Netflix will pick it up because I think there is a desperate need for it. And if you look at people like Ellen DeGeneres, who's got the most #1 talk show on TV, the best moments on her show are when she highlights real people. Yep. Not celebrities, real people doing some sort of act of goodness. And on every Ellen, I can't wait for those. That's my favorite segments. And I cry every single time. I make my daughter watch me. I'm like, oh my God, it's so nice. Look what they're doing. We need to do better things. Like those are the best. And if everybody agrees with it, or these times where she highlights these real people, and what are they doing? They're giving back in some way, shape, or form. They're helping somebody else. Yeah. So you're wrong, Cornell. You're going on Netflix.
You're right. You're right. And you're coming with me, Karen. I'm taking you with it.
I love it.
Cool. I think it's great. And honestly, I feel that you hit it on the head. There's a new movement coming,
there is.
And it's under all the drama right now. Like there's a smoke here, and we're kind of under that. But slowly, as that smoke dissipates, we're gonna start taking off, and people are really like people like yourself and people in our circle are gonna really start exploding to the top, and you're gonna start seeing a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. So for those that are listening that are going, okay, well, I am stuck in that place of fear and frozen, and I'm not positive like you two are. What do you have to say to them to help get them going, to help them bring themselves out of that place of some people it'll be misery, or they're going through that really hard time and they can't bounce back as easily as you and I could.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. I would say this, couple things. First thing is, how heavy is the storm, right? Like I said, like how heavy is the storm? Now there's lots of storms. Like when you lose someone, that's probably like one of the worst storms you can ever go through. It's different than like when you lose your job or, somebody you get broken up with. Like when you lose someone, like someone's no longer on this earth that you love. That's a very hard storm. I tell people all the time, don't beat yourself up for mourning. Don't beat yourself up for having human emotion. Positivity is not the absence of human emotion. It's just not living in negative emotion. That is my definition of positivity. So you just can't live in it. And you have to figure out something. All right, is this going to stop the way I live, right? Is this going to stop me from living? And the answer 99.999% of the times is no. So if I lose my job, is it going to stop me from living? No. If I bring something, no. If you have breath in your body, you can change your situation. And that's so important to understand. And I have empathy for people that are going through it because I go through it as well. But I know that sitting still and being angry and doing nothing about it is going to keep you in the same place. And then when you want to get really morbid, what you do is you take 100 marbles and you put them in a jar. And then you take out your age. And then you ask yourself, how much more time do I want to waste?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I mean, if you want to really get into it, because honestly, if it all goes right, if it all goes perfect, you got 100 years. And then the earth is recycled. So when you take out those marbles and you see how many years that you have left, and you say, okay, what do I want to do with this next 57? And how many years am I going to waste on something that's already happened that I can't control? Very important. And it's like, go through that. Go through your stuff, man. Process however you process it. But you can't stay in it. Because if you stay in it, man, you're wasting life. There's so many people that you could help, that could help you, that you could meet. You know, that person that broke up with you, there's someone that's like, I think we have thousands of soulmates, and it's not just romantic, it's friendships, it's everything.
Yeah, same.
I was like, there's someone that's just waiting for you, right? So don't sit in it, just keep moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, don't you think if you don't learn from those big mistakes and those big moments in your life that are the big hardships, a lot of the time they'll repeat themselves. Like you'll go through it again, you know, whether, let's say relationships is a really good one and I went through that myself. It was like boyfriend after boyfriend, just fail. Like I could not have failed more, I thought, than anybody else at relationships. I think there was hundreds that I was like, wow, I don't have a good track record here. I guess I'm going to spend the rest of my life alone. I'm going to, and then finally one day it was like, maybe life's trying to tell me something, like what could I learn from this? But it had to get so bad that I actually lost like the biggest love of my life. I lost, and I like not physically, like he didn't die, but I had to end it. And it was like the tragic, like on the floor crying for days going, my life's over. How could this possibly be? I thought this was the man I was going to marry. And then going and it clicking, finally going, I'm not going to do this again until I learn from this experience, because obviously I'm not listening to what life's trying to tell me. And it's time to learn and grow from this. And I took 2 years of like serious self, like digging, and worked on my spirituality and really got rid of this old stuff and learned about why I was attracting these men into my life like this. And I ended up attracting that same guy back into my life. And it's now 8 years or 9 years later, we've been married.
It's awesome.
Right? And it was
awesome.
Like, there comes a point where you have to start to listen. If these things keep repeating themselves and you keep thinking, why is life so hard on me? Why does these things keep happening? Well, open your eyes, people, and start listening.
We're creatures of habit, right?
Yeah.
So once you get on a pattern, and you don't recognize it's a pattern, you're just going to habitually do what you do. And I heard something, it's definitely not my own. And I heard this and I thought this was freaking great. So I was listening to a podcast and this guy said, he goes, they don't start, when you start playing video games, right? They don't start you at the last level. You start in the beginning. Why do you start in the beginning of the level? Because you have to accrue the skills to defeat the boss at the very end of the game. In a lot of the video games, they're patterns, right? You have to recognize the pattern. Okay, well, I didn't know there was an alligator there. So now I know after I died 30,000 times. So now I'm going to avoid the elevator. I'm going to go around the elevator, take the stairs. Oh, there's no shaft there. I fell down the elevator. Okay, now I know that the elevator shaft isn't there. And you start getting these skills and this knowledge, and you stop repeating the patterns that you did when you first started playing the video game. So when you get to the boss, you can kick his ass because now you have all this skill. That is life in a nutshell, right? It's failing and failing and failing and failing and failing and learning from those failures, hopefully, and learning from those losses, hopefully, so you can get more skill. And every once in a while, you get hit with an old thing that you failed at. But the cool thing is, if you're taking the lessons from the loss, you're gonna get past that a lot quicker than you did before.
Yes.
And that's life. And it's like what you said is 100% true. It's a pattern game. Life is a pattern game. If you are finding the wrong guy or girl and you're like, why am I only attracting losers? You got to ask yourself, well, why are you only attracting losers? What are you doing? Well, I keep meeting them at bars after 11 p.m. Well,
hello.
Maybe.
That was definitely one of my problems.
Yeah. Maybe stop going to that bar, right? So I look at things like, I love it because you look at life differently. I look at life differently, and we realize that there's more out there than this surface stuff that we see on a day-to-day basis. Man, there's a whole other realm of consciousness. There's a whole other realm in general. And when you look at it, we are just little specks, right? We're like little small specks in this big universe galaxy. And we are just renters. We don't own anything. In 100 years, we'll all be gone. So what are you going to leave behind? My dad's been gone for 40 years. And they named the street after him 6 years ago because of all the stuff that he did for the community and all the things that he's left behind. And I'm like, well, 300 years from now, if this world is still here, that sign is still going to be up. That had like Bobby Thomas Way, that's the name of the street. I said, that's a legacy. Do something so powerful, so impactful for someone else where people want to construct something for you. Now that's dope. Like that's living.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to end it there. On that note right there. Let's leave it where you're going to make such an impact. They may just actually name a street after you. That's the goal. But no, I love it. But just even an impact on just even the people around you, right? To be the best that you can be. I think that's and be everything you in life and that you can honestly be. I think it's
love
great.
It.
Yeah, but thank you. I love it. I love the conversation, and we're probably going to have you on again because I feel like we just kept going for another hour. We just scratched the surface.
Was that an
hour? Yeah.
Oh wow! I didn't even know it was an hour. I was like, oh, okay.
Another hour.
We could have easily done another hour.
Well, we'll have a part 2. I'm going to have Cornell back on for part 2.
This was great. You need to come to one of my positivity summits and speak.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm a good speaker.
I know that. I know that already. Like, I know that already. That's not even a question. That's what I'm asking. I have a question. Do you do workshops at all?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I keep thinking I need to. Yeah.
It's just a speech. Because I think there's so much, like, I'm looking at you and like what you're saying. I'm like, I'm already like planning your life for you. I'm like, there's so many different things that Karen I wonder if she's doing all these things. There's so much stuff that Karen could do. I was like, you have a book out?
No. I know. Hey, all these things are coming, Cornell. They're coming.
Karen, all the things need to be done. Like, you need to be doing all of that stuff. Like, you have to. Get this dope podcast. The book has to come. How often are you speaking? Are you going out and speaking?
Okay, hold on. I'm going to wrap this up.
Oh, I forgot we're still on.
We're still on. Now, before Cornell takes me and tells me what my future holds, I just want to say thank you, Cornell, for being on the show.
Thanks. Don't mind me.